Cat is a whole other ball game as compared to other fields of education and exams that we might have been exposed to, because it requires a great deal of concentration. It requires a lot of practice as well, and it tires the brain out a bit quickly.
For the past year at Inside IIM, we have been conducting one-on-one career coaching sessions as counsel, short domain-specific courses as masterclasses, and university-affiliated certificate programs. Now, we are extremely excited to announce that we have a new home for all these highly rated programs in altuni.in. So, if you are looking to earn a high salary, get a promotion, switch jobs, click on the link in the description or just visit altuni.in. Thank you, enjoy the video, and don't forget to press the bell icon to never miss an update. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Manas. A bit about me. I scored 94.36% in 10th, 88.92% in 12th, 75.75% in graduation, which is BCom. I'm a chartered accountant and I worked at KPMG in their statutory audit practice for 3 years during my CA articleship and for about 1.5 years post qualification. After that, I appeared for CAT in November 2020. I scored 99.08 percentile in CAT and my sectional percentile were 99.83 in VA, 97.9 in DILR and 89.74 in Quant. Now I am headed to IIM Indore. My CAT journey was a journey of shocks and surprises. I started attending weekend classes, learning concepts and doing practice homework that they used to give. In March, the first shock, the pandemic hit and we were all forced into a lockdown. Naturally, attending live classes was no longer possible and time came out with an online live class solution. A few things changed in my own schedule. Because of the lockdown and the initial inefficiencies that it brought, my workload increased a lot. That led to more working hours as well. This meant that I was unable to do that much practice and self-study in addition to the coaching lectures that I was attending. Due to the lockdown, it was also impossible for all of us to step out and meet friends and do the things that you enjoy after a stressful day or a stressful week. So I decided that rather than attending live online classes, I would just watch concept videos that Time and other coaching classes give out. What this meant is I would be watching videos where only the concept was discussed and I would do my solving practice independently. I did start watching those concept videos, but I did not have the time and nor the energy or inclination to practice. So from March till May, all I was doing was watching concept videos with no practice. I was done with my concept videos and Time also simultaneously released their first mock test, which is called the IIM CAT. I appeared for that IIM CAT just to see where I stand and I scored 96 percentile. In the successive mocks that followed, my percentiles literally went from 90s to 80s to 70s to 60s. At this stage, I realized what is obvious, just watching concept lectures is not enough and doing your own practice for CAT is far more important than just studying and reading books. At this point, I panicked a bit and I spoke to my managers about getting a leave of 2 months to prepare for CAT, and my managers were gracious enough to grant me that leave. Now, with the comfort of knowing that I have a 2-month leave coming up, I decided to finish up with concept lectures and just continue appearing for mock tests and analyzing them in detail. My percentile was not improving, it was improving very slowly, but there was no clear indication that I was improving in any way. Appearing for multiple mocks was giving me the understanding about how to write a CAT exam within a timed environment and how to decide which questions to pick and which questions to leave. Another shock came my way. I was absolutely unable to concentrate and study for more than 6 hours for CAT. One thing that I learned from this is that CAT is a whole other ball game as compared to other fields of education and exams that we might have been exposed to, because it requires a great deal of concentration, it requires a lot of practice as well, and it tires the brain out a bit quickly. Then came another level of panic because now I had just 2 months left and my study time that I had actually planned had gone down by more than half. At this time, I decided that I needed to be realistic and I cannot solve hundreds of sums per chapter, or I cannot solve hundreds of mocks as is usually recommended by the CAT community. I decided to go after sectional tests for every chapter in every section. How this helps is you are able to practice in a timed environment, and since it is limited, you can practice a particular chapter, analyze what is going wrong, and then move on to the next. My CAT preparation strategy at this point was just to do sectionals, continue appearing for mock tests and analyzing them, and do a little more for certain chapters. As I started going about appearing for these sectionals, I realized that the CAT chapters for me were split into 3 buckets. There were chapters that were easy for me, that were going well for me. There were chapters that needed a bit more work. And then there were chapters which were an absolute lost cause. I decided to do a moderate amount of practice for the easy chapters, a lot of practice for the chapters that needed work, and to absolutely ignore the chapters that were hopeless. Eventually, I saw that my mock test scores had started improving at a snail's pace, but they were improving. I kept my focus only on attempts, accuracy, and percentile. For each section, I used to check whether my attempts and accuracy is balanced and whether I'm gradually able to improve on both counts, not just any one of them. Finally, I had a flow and I started preparing for CAT with sectionals, mock tests, and working on the chapters that I needed to work on. Then came the next shock. The CAT exam, which was usually 3 hours, was now going to become 2 hours. Initially, I was very happy. I felt like I would be less fatigued, that I would be able to concentrate more, and I would be able to perform better with a shorter test format of 2 hours. Again, I could not have been more wrong. The problem with a shorter testing time is that if one thing goes wrong, if one set goes badly for you, things can unravel pretty fast and you have less time to recover. That is something that came to me as a rude awakening very late when I started appearing for a couple of mock tests in the new 2-hour format. During my preparation, I also prepared a book of formulae which contained formulae for quants, and it also had some tips and tricks for specific DILR questions. As I went ahead with my CAT preparation, I constantly updated this formulae book and revised it once a week. After I appeared for the mock tests, after about 2 days or so, time would provide us with the result, which contained the sectional percentile, overall percentile, percentages of accuracy and attempts in each section, and detailed answers to every question. I first went through this table of attempts, accuracy, and percentile in great detail, comparing it with my previous mocks to understand which section has improved for me and which section has deteriorated for me. This constant assessment gave me a great idea of what sections I need to work on, and they were usually quants, but this analysis served as validation that my strategy of spending more time on quants, slightly lesser on DILR, and least on VA was helpful. After this comparison of both the tables was done, I used to go through all of the questions. I used to first pick up the questions that I either could not attempt at all or I attempted but they were incorrect. Then I solved these questions peacefully. I realized that many of the questions that I either dropped or got wrong, I could actually solve them, and I could solve them correctly when I was not worried about time. This told me that with a little more work on those specific types of sums, I would be able to easily solve them in the time environment. As I picked up such chapters and such sums and I practiced them, my mock test scores improved successively. Finally, the CAT exam day was here. Because of COVID-19 and related mandatory precautions, there were a lot of additional steps and procedures that we were required to follow at the test center, and there were a few things that we had to carry along with us. So this was probably the first exam that I wrote wearing gloves, wearing a mask, and carrying a sanitizer in my pocket. When we arrived at the test center, there was a lot of focus, and rightly so, on social distancing norms, ensuring that students are not crowding together, ensuring that everybody was wearing masks and gloves and was using sanitizers regularly. This was added to the usual procedure that happens at a test center, which is checking at the gate, biometric process inside the exam center, and ultimately being allotted a computer. Because of all of this process and the stress that came with it, added to the stress of ensuring that you're not touching anything or not going close to anybody to ensure that you don't get the virus. It was when I sat at the computer and the CAT question paper was in front of me that it actually hit me that I'm appearing for CAT today. When I got the result, I was pleasantly surprised to know that I had 99 percentile. I had crossed the 99 percentile threshold. And after an arduous process, I'm finally excited to start my journey at IIM Indore. In hindsight, here are a few things that went well for me. First of all, setting realistic goals based on available time. Another thing that worked very well for me was how I analyzed the mocks and allowed the analysis of mock test performance as a driver for my preparation strategy. In hindsight, there are also a few things that I could have done better. Firstly, I fell prey to the preconceived notion that is circulated in the CAT community that people from a non-engineering, specifically from a commerce background, find quants very hard. Because of this, I gave up on quants a bit too early. If I had practiced more aggressively, if I had spent more time on it, and if I had worked harder, I'm sure my quant score would have improved and my overall percentile would have also improved with it. Another thing is, I understood CAT as an examination a bit too late in my preparation journey. I was worried about relatively unimportant things like how many questions I'm attempting. Why do I keep getting questions wrong? There are a few chapters that I absolutely know nothing about, like trigonometry. All of these things are not important, and in order to realize what is important and actually focus on that, it is very necessary to study CAT as an exam to understand what helps with a good score. If I had understood this a little early, I would have probably done a better job. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate 3 key learnings from my CAT journey. Number 1, study the CAT before studying for the CAT. Number 2, analysis of mock tests. Not quantity of mock tests, but quality of analysis of mock tests can make or break the CAT for you. Number 3, do not fall prey to preconceived notions that circulate in the CAT community. Each individual's CAT journey is what that individual makes of it. Thanks a lot for listening to my story.